Welcome everybody. So today we are going to do kind of a mock interview. This was one request from few developers which we've met. So basically what we're trying to do, I'm going to be the interviewer. Abdallah is going to be the candidate. What we are trying to do here is very simple. We're going to interview someone for the post of a tech lead position, which will be normally in the techno of .NET. How do I proceed as a manager for an interview? I like to divide it into three steps. This is my personal approach. There's no bookish or but there can be much better approach. So first prerequisite, which I feel is mandatory, is to have a profile of the job position. What's the profile of the job position? What are you expecting to have from the candidate? Simple. For example, it can be I want him to be a good communicator. I want him to be knowledgeable in Python as well as in .NET. I want him to have some experience in ASP.NET. I want him to have experience in .NET Core. So that would be kind of profiling the candidates. That's tip number one. Tip number two, you would see something called read the candidate's CV. I've seen it. I myself has been in multiple interviews whereby we've noticed it with interviewer. It's at the same spot they are reading someone. They're doing someone's interview that they're going through the CV. And I feel sometimes it's kind of wasting time. Why? Because once you go through someone's CV as an experienced interviewer, you should be able to know, is he matching? Does he have the potential to be well? So that's the prerequisite. So let's dig down in terms of interview now. So I like to divide it into two or three parts. One which I normally call to be the soft skill, technical skills, and HR skills. So we'll start with part one, which is purely soft skills. Okay. So first of all, Abdallah, are you ready? Can you
Yes, I
start?
am. I am ready. Yes, yes.
Relax, relax. I know it's kind of hard. Just for the audience to be aware, this is kind of a live. There's no sharing of information how I'm supposed to proceed or anything. So we just want to do it kind of a live. So let's start with simply soft skill. So first of all, Abdallah, can you give me? I will give you 2 minutes. I want a quick introduction about yourself, especially your knowledge about .NET. Can you please share it with us?
Yes, so for me, I've been in the industry working over 10 years. So I actually started my career working more on ERP, but then quickly switched to .NET. So at the time, I worked over 1 year as a sole developer with a DBA and project manager and senior who did all the functional stuff and SQL stuff, while I implemented in .NET Framework at the time using the now dead or not used so much the WCF, Windows Communication
Mm,
Foundation. So I implemented a logistic EDI, enterprise development interface. So basically, the application listen on a server for new file, and the file was in XML. So what we need to do was to transform and parse it, then send the data into a SQL server. And then from the SQL server, we will just be transforming the data to send to an accounting system. So it was one of my best projects I ever worked, and I was alone actually because in the company I worked there were not really programmers, let alone .NET developers. So this was one of the most interesting projects that I've worked very early on my career by myself, and I had a level of autonomy, which I really enjoyed. So after that, I didn't really work much with .NET. Then recently, I worked over 2 years in a company that specializes in that works or is partnered with Microsoft. So then I had the opportunity to work with .NET Core, but just for insight, I didn't left .NET completely out. During the time, I worked on PHP, Angular, Node.js, Ruby on Rails, but I also checked .NET from time to time and even coded in it because I like playing with different solutions, even if I don't use it professionally. So for me, like switching from one language to another one just requires me 2 or 3 days to remember it, to ramp up, and I'm good to go. So then I started as a full stack developer in Angular, .NET, but really as an engineer, as an expert level engineer that is able to touch a lot of front. But initially my work was supposed to be with Angular and .NET. Then I work a bit, but the project was quite complex. I wasn't used to distributed architectures, Azure data table. So in meanwhile, what I worked on was lots of test automation, C Sharp, .NET. We're using XUnit, NUnit, and even MS Test. So I experimented with these different technologies. Which one is better? For example, what I can clearly tell you is that MS Test is
Okay.
very good for
Sorry,
network.
sorry, Abdallah. Sorry, Abdallah, I'm
Sorry,
interrupting
two
you. Just,
minutes. I
just,
forgot.
yeah, yeah. It's 2 minutes. Also, you mentioned something very interesting. Talk about automation. Have you been involved in SpecFlow?
Yes,
Development?
yes. Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
cool.
I work
Okay,
with
so
such
this
stuff.
one we can go through much more details onto it when we go to the technical part. So thanks for this quick introduction. So let's talk a bit. So like I've told you, the first part will be mostly soft skill. If you're a good fit for the team, how you want to move forward. So let's start with that. I presume throughout your career, you've worked with team members, right?
Yes.
And the position you're looking for is a tech lead. So just to give you an insight, you would be having senior developer with you. You would be having definitely an architect as well working with you. Plus, you're going to have maybe some junior working with you, right? One of your key responsibilities as a tech lead, and this is one of the expectation of my company, is to guide those junior developers, right? So I give you an example. Have you been exposed in mentoring or coaching junior developer? When I say junior developer, I'm talking about fresher from university.
Yes. A lot of times my career.
Okay, and what's the most difficult part in mentoring or coaching junior?
Yeah, so for me, there is one specific issue I've found coming up again and again is when the developer has made up his or her mind about a solution, even if it's not optimized or there are better solution, they will only focus on it. And most of the times, what happens is they just lose time. For example, there is a library, a good library that can do something. They prefer implementing it themselves, and at the end of the day, it cannot even match what a library can. So this was my biggest feedback that I saw time and again.
Okay, so one of your biggest challenge mentoring and coaching was developer tends to do what their mind say
Yeah.
instead of going in a kiss. I would say keep it simple and stupid approach, right?
Yes.
And how did you, as a developer, tend to move that person to be more, I would say, productive in such places?
Yeah. So there are, I would say, two different organizations. Um, I operated differently. For example, in one of them, there wasn't really code reviews being done. So if a developer does something and there is like it's good functionally and it will just go on the testing or later on production. So I will just my best is to offer some insight and try to tell the person, yes, you can do it simpler. Here's an example. And then we need to in fact in one of the companies I worked there weren't even appraisal systems. So they didn't really grow because I've been there, I've done that, and I'm seeing the same thing being repeated. While in another company I've worked, there were code reviews, so they cannot really push unless we have an agreement. And there were appraisal as well, so my feedback counted. And there automatically, you see within a few months, these developers grow really fast. And that was something that satisfied me a lot.
Cool. That's really good. Now, in terms of you and the team, you're the tech lead. I give you specific scenarios, and you have a junior who, like you just said, would be doing what's in their mind as an example instead of doing the more optimized solution, right? Now it's Friday and there's a bug, and it's 4 p.m. Friday, and like, the normal IT world, it's Friday and there's a bug. What do you do?
Yeah, normally we don't deploy on Friday, but let's say we've deployed. I mean, not everyone follows this, of course, but let's say, yeah, we've deployed earlier and indeed there's a bug. Then my role as the tech lead is to sit down and try to solve it. And obviously, if I can get the coder behind who's programmed this bug with me, it's good. I mean, I expect that he will be here with me. And if I can get some helping hands as well. But normally, what I will do, since it's already the technology I know quite well, I know really well, I will sit down with this person and try to figure out first. Since it is a Friday, let's see if we can get a quick workout. But the best part then is to do a root cause analysis, try to understand what's happening, and then solve it with the proper solution.
Okay, cool, thanks. Let's say tomorrow the client comes forward with, I would say, tight deadline. Okay. And it's something very hard to be done within normal hours. Let's put it this way. I'm not telling you currently in the company I'm working, you're supposed to do overtime or you're under pressure. But let's say you're close to the client and the client have definitely passed through the PO, goes to the business analyst. It's in the backlog and everything. And but you notice like, okay, this specific requirement needs to happen. This is a key one for the client, and the client needs that in order to move forward. Would you be kind of ready to do a bit of extra mile to be able to complete this particular, let's say, user story at a particular point?
Yes, definitely. Why? Because, like you just mentioned, it doesn't happen every day. So once in a while, of course, we can do it because it's our client and it is our duty. And sometimes what normally happens from my experience, we do have some white space before, which is flexible. So one thing I heard about your company is that they are flexible. So we can then later be more flexible with our time. For example, we can get time off. But if this is important for the client, of course, we are going to do it. And for me, as a personal motivation, I know that I work best whenever there is a high intensity. I'm not saying like we need to
Okay.
go, yeah, not really pressure. I don't really see it as pressure, rather like intensity. In what sense? If you watch football, you will see the best teams are those who play with very high intensity. They are the best. One of the reasons is because high intensity. Well, but if normally we humans being we are a bit lazy by nature, so if I get this opportunity and it's not like always 100% of the time every single day of the year, but then of course I will embrace this intensity because it will make me better as a developer but also as a professional and will help me learn faster.
Okay, cool. No, it's fine. That looks really good. You mentioned about flexibility. I presume you mentioned you work in Agile framework. I'm not going to ask you what's Agile, but I wanted to understand something. You're in a sprint. I have a kind of leadership here within my team, because my technical architect and the team. There is a goal. They need to work. No one is going to micromanage you. I'm not expecting that. But let's say tomorrow you do have some free time. Okay, so let's say within the sprint there is some few capacity. Let's put it in context right now. You have like 3% days left in this sprint. What do you do?
Okay, so is it just for me or for the team?
No, it's just for you.
Okay. Yeah. So the first thing I usually do is I will go and give a helping hands to my colleagues, to my teammates, and see if there are block or there are some frictions that I can already help them with. So because at the end of the day, we have a team goal and we want to achieve it. So this will be my main focus. But let's say everyone is working smoothly and we are expected to achieve our objective by the end of the sprint, then I will, for me, what I like doing is to learn a bit more about the technology, but also about the domain, the functional part, and maybe sit down with the PO or business analyst to understand some more of the business logic, for example.
That was fine. Next one is we've talked about free time, definitely. Um, let's before we go to free time, since you mentioned a bit about this, let's say uh, definitely your working hours is your working hours, okay? But outside your working hours, outside the job, what do you do which reflect you, which I can say, hey, you're a developer, or what are the new things for the past few months or weeks you've learned?
Yeah, so this is a very good question indeed. So, in my free time, apart from work, what I love doing is helping build or at least help contribute in the IT community in Mauritius. And one of the ways I do it is by sharing what I've learned, but also if there's something new, for example, with .NET, at the time, .NET 6 was 5 and 6 was a lot of hype. So what I would do is research a little bit, write a post, or even just read a post on Microsoft Learn, for example, and share it. And then I will see if I can implement anything on that. And that's most likely.
Cool. That's really good. So I have two last question. One is definitely you're a tech lead. Okay, you have your view, you have your experience, our things. You're going to work with one of my experienced architect within the portfolio of project I'm working. I would like to know how do you manage if tomorrow you're coming with a solution, the architect is coming with another solution, and bear in mind he's more experienced, he knows the domain. How do you manage the architect proposition and your proposition? And you, from your personal experience, let's gain context here. You're saying this is going to fail. That's how you are seeing it right now. And you knew that this is something of a big risk for the project. But my architect, who has kind of been involved with most of the project, is telling you no, go ahead, deploy, go live, everything is going to be fine. How do you manage that?
So yeah, this is a very interesting question, and it actually happened a lot of times throughout my career. So there's actually a saying in karate. So when you come to the dojo, they tell you to keep your bag and your ego at the doorstep. So first thing is not to take anything personal and focus on the solution, the work itself. So eventually at the start of my career, well, not at start, but as I become senior and more senior, I often had this disagreement. One of the times, for example, a colleague will be choosing too much of a complex solution. So what we did, especially if we had time, so if we are under pressure, we need to deliver very fast. Then what I'm going to say might not be applicable, but if you are working in agile and we have some scope and time remaining, what I would always suggest the architect, for example, in this case, what we can do is do like we do in marketing, A/B testing. So you do a proof of concept with your idea. I do one with mine, and we try it, and let's see what the fuck says.
You don't have time.
Uh,
Remember, you're on a project. You know that well. You have deadlines to bring that. You don't have time. So let's
yeah.
put a bit of spice onto this situation right now. You don't have time. The architect is saying A, you're saying B. What do you do?
So yeah, so this is a very interesting question. So it depends on the organization as well. If there's like a disagreement, a total one, like we cannot move any further, then what I like doing is taking the opinion of other very good developers in the company and maybe make a meeting and we reach an agreement. So in my previous project, we did that a lot of times because the technology that we use was quite open. It's not as like structured. Well, it's structured, but it's very open. You can implement the same thing in so many ways. And we often needed to have these meetings in order to have a final decision. So that's what I was going to do.
Thanks. Look, I think that part is good. Just for you to be aware, nous avons des clients qui sont français, définitivement, et nous voulons savoir si est-ce que cela te pose un problème pour pouvoir communiquer en français.
Non, pas du tout, hein. Je suis très à l'aise en français. Au fait, je suis plus à l'aise en français qu'en anglais. Mais les termes techniques, ben, j'ai appris en anglais. Et je lis pas mal les articles et je suis les tutos en anglais. Alors, je vais que utiliser les termes anglais, par exemple, ERP, c'est logiciel, mais on va pas penser avec ça. Mais au long de ma carrière, j'ai plutôt travaillé avec des compagnies, des clients et des collègues français ou belges ou suisses. Et voilà, c'est très rarement, enfin, on parle le français je veux dire que pendant peut-être 2 ans que j'ai pas travaillé avec des Français ou parlé avec les Français. Mais sinon, c'est que les Français.
Tu es à l'aise. Tu n'as pas de
Ouais,
souci à parler le français
pas du tout,
ou
zéro.
communiquer. Okay, okay, c'est superbe, c'est superbe. Okay, I think it looks kind of good. Thank you for this first phase. Just for our audience to be aware, these are just few questions. Definitely, it can go more intense. It can go more detailed. We are trying to illustrate here a basic sense of interview. We've tried to tackle 6 different steps, and this can be reflective of your HR interview as well. So I try to tend to put it as soft skills. So I try to check if my candidate is fit as a mentor, as someone who can coach. Is he someone who is a team player? Can he go the extra mile? Uh, Scenario based in terms of 3 days left in the sprint. What does he do? Curiosity, eagerness, and passionate uh, towards technology. We've talked about conflict management. Ego is a big part, as you mentioned, Jojo style. So I like this one. And then definitely we've talked about communication, being expressive at an upper level, especially when you move up the ladder, is kind of key. So thank you for your time. Thank you, Abdallah, for being so pleasant in the interview. Apologies to put you in such pressure cooker mode, but thanks. Have a nice day, guys. Subscribe, follow, like. Take care. Bye bye.